Smoke. OVS, Old Virginia Smoke.
Welcome to Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast. I'm your host, Luke Darnell. This week on Pitmaster, we have Sterling Ball from Big Poppa Smokers. Sterling has been a major influence in barbecue for a long time now, with much success as a pitmaster, but also as the founder of Big Poppa Smokers barbecue rubs, creator of the Guinea Pig BBQ Contests, the king of the smoker, and I can't forget the Big Poppa Smokers Cooking for Kids charity program, of which Old Virginia Smoke is very blessed to be a part of. This is a wide-ranging conversation about barbecue, cooking, music, and a whole range of topics that I think you'll enjoy. So please join me in welcoming the incomparable Sterling Ball. So we're here with Sterling Ball from Big Poppa Smokers. You entered my life a lot earlier than you think you did, because as you mentioned earlier, I've got the guitars behind me on the wall, and I've been buying Ernie Ball guitar strings for years.
You never emailed Jesse and said, "Hey, I'm part of Cooking for the Kids. Where's my strings?"
I haven't yet. No, I didn't know that was an option.
Tomorrow, I think the first email that hits the server. Yeah, reach out because we'd love to. Yeah, the guitar thing, it's my original and still true passion. A lot of people don't know about it, but Ernie Ball, we're the largest manufacturer of electric guitar strings. My dad actually created the category. I took over the business, I think, when I was 22 or 23. We had 14 employees, and that's what I did for a big part of my life. But I also would always cook. I've always cooked, and I love cook. And so I play music and I cook, and I've been in a lot of businesses over the years. I mean, I was in the golf business for a year, taking a kid to top 5, Anthony Kim in 2008. We're at the Ryder Cup and we did that. So that was fun. But the guitar thing is still, I mean, it was amazing. I had the greatest opportunity from my dad. My dad was done early. I'm very lucky. I have all 3 of my sons work in the business, but my son Brian's CEO, and he's doing things that I never could. But I'm still involved. What's really funny is I opened a design studio because I've done the marketing for Ernie Ball my whole life. And there's one thing I probably have a little that I'm known for in that business is the marketing of that company and the building of the brand. And some of the instruments that I designed, I've been fortunate to work with, Van Halen to Keith Richards to Paul McCartney to John Petrucci at Dream Theater has been the biggest artist in terms of sales, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So, I've worked with, all the country artists, all the rock artists. So that's been, I've fired some big names too, that I'll tell you by the solo fire pit. But it was, where it just wasn't a connection. But, with guitars and cooking, they're both creative and business is creative. So a lot of the things I know we're going to talk about, they kind of, my approach overlaps.
Yeah. And I remember the first time we met, it was at the Sam's Club final.
Yep, I remember.
And you were across from us. And I remember when we parked the trailer and I was like, oh gosh. And Leanne was like, she's our other teammate. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, that's Big Poppa Smokers. That's Sterling Ball. And she goes, that Ball? And I went, yeah, that Ball. She was like, and I just remember that one night you were sitting there and you called us over and we chatted for about an hour. And that was one of our best takeaways was meeting you.
I love meeting you guys there. I remember that. We had some really bad pizza delivered, as I remember.
Yep. That's great.
I don't know how they really should be, the pizza police should be there citing them. But I remember that. I missed the Sam's Club. I thought that was a great situation.
It was, I think, I still hold it up there as probably one of the top 3 things we got to go cook because, you worked your way there and you earned your way in, and then you got to see where you stood with the best people in the country. And we didn't know anybody at that point. We were just like so happy to be there. And I just remember that being like, I don't want to say that was the pinnacle of barbecue, but it might have been at that time. It was just a lot of fun.
Because you really had to cook your way into it.
Yeah.
Like the Jack too. But, I am glad you said it's top 3, because if you said it was number 1.
No, there's only number 1. There's only one event that is number 1. That's the King of the Smokers.
Took years off my life. You know what? I took so much abuse over the years for King of the Smoker, and it's nice now to see everyone miss it. But I don't think they understand that abuse. I see that stuff and I go, so why am I doing this? The
Right.
teams were great. The teams that came out were great, but I set myself up for a little of it by picking the teams and by refusing to make it just the top 24 of KCBS. I was trying to, I really wanted to incorporate legends. And in fact, I look back on that and I'm so glad I did. I mean, with the passing of Mike Mills,
Mm-hmm.
Mike Mills at the King of the Smokers was unbelievable.
Yep.
And I hope that a lot of the younger cooks were looking at people like Tuffy and Mike Mills and how they carry themselves and how they engage with the fans. And, Myron, Darren does. You do. You guys do a great job of that. And I'm not just saying it because I'm on your podcast, but, I had Jerry King there.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. He was the nicest man in barbecue, so I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I did the guinea pigs. The news flash is that I'm not doing any more guinea pigs.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a post on social media on Facebook that killed it. And you could probably find it. And it was people who'd done well up there, but here's the key. And I learned that Darren likes to say, I didn't take away your birthday. I added the guinea pig and I added the King of the Smoker.
Yep.
And between the two of them, I did it 20 times and reached in my pocket for each one. And all it was a different take. And I just got killed. But after all these years, I'm very proud that I created a contest with the help of a great staff, the 3 J's, Jesse, Jody, and James.
They're the best.
And some great sponsors later on. Emily was great. Awesome did it this year, Tyson. But all I did was something. It was a week where you didn't have to, if you didn't want to cook it, you didn't have to cook it. Why the hate? And I think the online hate that went for the last 10 years I called it anti-social media. When you get to barbecue, there were more arguments than people smelling the roses.
Yeah.
And if you look at what's changed now, nobody's getting endorsement gigs out of competition barbecue. The influencers are getting it. And you go and look at the influencers, they help each other out. They don't fight. It's all about the food and it's all about cooking. It's all about trying to move ahead. And as a result, they have guys with, 1.5 million followers, that people that started a year ago that have 500,000 followers.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting to watch, but I think there's a bitterness factor that I hate to dwell on, because there's so many great people like you guys, and I'm going to get a chance to talk about some of them because I know I got a clue of what we're going to talk about. But yeah, I didn't take away anybody's birthday. I just added some contests, and I can tell you, after doing 2 in Virginia, which you cooked.
Yep.
You cooked one of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
One, yeah. See, I remember. You got a previous commitment from a contest that you'd won the year before, and I respected the fact that you went back, because that's something you need to do. If you went, go back, okay? But maybe don't go back and post that I'm looking forward to repeating. That's always the kiss of death. It's like Darren showing his meat. It's a kiss of death. But I think supporting the promoters that gave you an opportunity to get a GC is great. So I did 2 there. I did 1 in Kansas City. I did it with Jeff Staney. People would think, oh, you're competitors. We're dear friends. We play golf most of the winter. And Jeff and I looked at each other after and said, well, we won't be doing this again. There's a lot of expectations.
Yeah.
But so they're gone. And I think I did 20 unique contests. But the thing about the guinea pig that I was happiest about is that we were the first contest to really talk about paying deeper than 2 places, the 10 places. So after 9 or 10 of those, total 60% cash to check.
Oh, wow.
22% broke even or made money. Okay. And the 3 people who complained the most about their meat won the category the year that they won it. Travis did it. He posted his brisket, said, look at this little skinny thing. He won. Okay. Onion Ring Rick out here. Rick Bates, wonderful guy, great cook. He whined about his brisket twice and won both years. So every year after that, he'd whine about his brisket before he even opened the box. But so I mean, that's why those things are gone. Maybe I'll come back with something else. I don't know.
Well, but I think one of the best things to talk about and think about is what's not gone, and the cooking for kids is still around, and it is hands down probably. It's not probably, it's the best thing that we do in barbecue, and we're able to give back to our charity, Journey for Cure, which is based here in Virginia. And it's just a wonderful program that you've created that allows teams around the country to to give back, and it's created a culture within our program of doing as many things as we can for them, just because, why not use our success to help other people. And I can't, I, even if this is all we talk about, I can't thank you enough for that opportunity and for what you do.
Oh, it gives me goose pimples. And I'll tell you, I wish the general public could see the hearts of pitmasters. When at the Get King of the Smoker, after all the stuff done, I'd give the money out and I'd make everybody, or I'd have everybody come up and tell them about their charity and what it means to them. And big, tough, rugged pitmasters has never been one that didn't cry on stage. I might have started it, but I think the ability to recognize that local is good, and that you give I wish I could give more to the cooking for kids, and I probably will, but through barbecue, Big Poppa Smokers supporting the Casey Lee Ball Foundation, we at the King of the Smoker, we use that to raise money. And basically I put the arm on Deloitte and all my big companies I deal with. And so using that, and we had a golf tournament for many years before and a pro-am, but I was able to raise a couple $1 million at the King of the Smoker. And we underwrote the chair at Boston Children's Hospital in transplantation, not just kidneys. And the Casey Lee Ball Foundation is something I'm so proud, because it's my youngest son. I wasn't doing that kind of stuff then. It took
Mhm.
my son getting sick to wake me up, because everything was going great. I was rocking and rolling. And then my third son at 2 years old went in, and they said, well, he's got a terminal disease. So he had 8 operations by the time he was 6 years old, including getting my right kidney. This is a great story. I just finished giving the kidney, and I know you got questions to ask, and this is name dropping, so I'll tape my toes afterwards. But I did get in trouble by the head of the hospital, because in the room afterwards, recovery room, came a special select open, and they threw Eddie Van Halen, George Clooney, like Dweezil was there, Rich Kind, who's an actor. I had 19 people in my room, and I was only supposed to have my wife. So that was back when I was drinking, but that was a pretty fun. That was a fun time. And my kidney lasted in Casey for 25 years. He got a second kidney. He's just graduating with honors. He decided to go to college a little later, as a degree in history, made the dean's list every time. And he's just, his heart's so big, and he's been sick every day of his life. And his outlook is beautiful. But Casey Lee Ball Foundation, since I started, we've raised $13.5 million, and
Wow.
we've brought drugs to the market in almost every country in the world. So that's the most important thing I've ever done in my life. And cooking for kids gives pitmasters a chance to identify a local charity, work with them, and see how impactful a smaller donation on the local level does. I mean,
Tremendous.
when you give the check, what's it like there?
It's indescribable, really, just to see the joy that you get to provide. That's from more or less a hobby, and you get to go and actually visit with patients and see the kids, and just see the joy that the even the thousands of dollars that we've been able to generate for them. It just helps so much. And even because it just helps, even if it just helps one kid, it's worth it. But it's helped so many, and it's just, I've got goosebumps talking about it.
Well,
It's
just so people know, it's literacy. It's Justin and Kate sponsor a a park
Yeah.
that's accessible to everyone, every kid. It's not a handicap park. It's not a deal. It's a park for kids, and the kids in wheelchairs are playing with the kids in our. They sent me a video, and I mean, I'm just crying. And uh, you can't. I had her talk to some people about it at the last Guinea Pig, and we all ended up the same thing. I think Darren and Sherry, the way they did the juvenile diabetes, and how every contest they took to mine, they gave their check back, and then they matched it. But and their pinky swear is a great one. But I don't know. I mean, that's what's kind of important. I mean, you can kind of combine a hobby, get personal growth, gain relationships that hopefully will last forever, and maybe leave an impact that's bigger than arguing about something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's, we've had people come up to us at events that don't know us, and they see the Cooking for Kids charity sticker on the trailer, and they hand us $20 and ask us where it's going, and we get to tell them.
Holy
And
moly.
I mean, that's
One,
fantastic.
one story this year was great. Steve Hayden's driving. You
Hmm.
know, dude, Steve's just a wonderful person, great family, and we almost lost him a couple times. And I'm so happy to have him as part of the Cooking for Kids too. And he's in some rural spot, and this guy on a chopper or something is following him. And he pulls into the gas station. The guy pulls up, looks nasty, gnarly, mean. So no, this is gonna be bad. Guy goes, "What's this Cooking for Kids in the back of your trailer?" Well, that's when, because you support Ronald McDonald House? Here he is. Yeah. Guy burst into tears. Ronald McDonald House, my daughter's life was saved there. We stayed there. Well, my wife, I mean, I got the story pretty close, but Steve called me. He goes, "Man, you don't understand how many times that I was in a bad mood coming from the thing. I thought this guy was giving me trouble." He said, "This grown man is visibly touched that we're raising money for a place that saved his kid's life and gave the proper shelter and support for the parents while the kids were sick." Well, we sure haven't talked about barbecue.
I think we really have, though.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think one of the things that, when we get into some of the later questions about what's missing from competition barbecue, and I really think that a lot of it is that personal touch and that empathy. I think there's a lot to be said for, maybe getting back to that as the sport moves forward.
I, I agree completely, and I think there's a greater good, and I think that you can look for that. And we're such a divided nation in every way. I mean, from politically to religion to barbecue.
Hmm.
It just seems like that. I mean, I would really like to see a little more harmony. It,
Absolutely.
it's pretty ugly right now to me.
It is. And you get online and you see, right now we're in the midst of the KCBS election, and you see all these divisive posts that are they're caustic. I mean,
By the way, I only follow positive people in barbecue. So
yeah.
there's about 5 or 6. You're one of them. Uh, but I basically, because I take it personally when I get, and plus, I got attacked so many times over the years, and it's from people who I can show you DMs where they're saying nice things to me, asking me for advice. And I promise you that's happened, like huge amount.
Hmm.
And the way Darren's won has been great. People don't begrudge it, at least very much. And winning can cause some animosity too.
It can. It can. Well, let's talk about it a little bit. Let's get into the barbecue aspect.
Sure.
What do you think in terms of, because I know that one of the things you were known for in the music circle was cooking food for everybody.
Yeah.
So what do you think was the biggest turning point as a pitmaster that you've experienced when you first started out?
First of all, I didn't start out to be the pitmaster. Jody was,
Oh, okay.
and with a couple guys, and I said, "Well, I'll help you." And they thought I was crazy because I was just I am an insane man for details. It just doesn't look like it when you see my shirt when I'm done. I mean, everything we do is weighed, measured, documented, journaled. I still practice, I think, more than anybody in barbecue. And I emphasize me because there's a couple guys who started the thing that James does all the cooking. That bothers James more than they know. They don't understand that when they say that, because what people got to realize, James is the greatest thing,
He's
friend,
unbelievable.
right? But James gets paid. It's a job. So when they see him working hard, that's James' job. And by the way, just so you know, during COVID, we haven't competed. How do you think James has been taken care of?
Very well.
Right. Okay. I love James, but James doesn't want people get in the way of the gig. I always torture James, say, hey, it's a little problem because I can't travel with him. I said, James, I got a problem. I can't make it. He, he you see Hispanic swear words come up and stuff. But we're a team. I mean, there's no question they're a team. But I mean, he cooks the chicken. I do about half of it, but he's in charge of that. And that's, nobody can understand the real story. And I'm sorry because you asked a different question. But what makes more sense? A Hispanic guy that was a truck driver that had never cooked in his life becomes an instant champion on the barbecue circuit. I think James and I have won 39 together, okay?
Hmm.
And or the pitmaster and owner saw somebody who really had an interest in it and taught him. And then what I told him, I said, James, we'll both cook chicken. When I think your chicken's better than mine, we'll turn it in. So we're in, I think, Telluride or Grand Junction, one or the other, and he gets a second place because he turned in his. The next one he gets a 180. So I come back and have stenciled below James the Flame on his door, world's greatest chicken cooker. And of course, there's a couple bitter pitmasters out here that thought, how dare they say James is the world's greatest? It's a joke, okay? But its average was 1.5, but it's only 2 contests. So, I mean, I think everything's changed in barbecue. When I started, nobody shared information. I do believe that Big Poppa Smokers with the elite team and all that got a lot more people talking about what they're doing and how. I mean, I see you're very open with the guys, and that wasn't like that, but it was also a lot rowdier and a lot more fun.
Hmm.
I mean, there were football games going on, and you know, cornhole hadn't started yet, even, but it was a lot different. It's a lot different back then, and that's only in my first year was 2009.
Hmm.
I didn't plan on being the pitmaster. I started traveling with them in, I think, 10, a little bit. And then one by one, they had kids and dropped off, and I took over the team. I had Brad, who I just could never get Brad on the same wavelength as far as what's important. And so I just didn't do it myself, but I needed a truck driver. So I went to our HR. I said, I need a truck driver. She said, you can have anybody but James. So, okay, well, tell James to be ready at noon. The rest is history. Because James was driving the Warp Tour for us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to try and answer your questions better.
You are a very confident cook. Where does that confidence come from?
Practice. It comes from that. It's look, and the other thing, I'm really focused, and I would cook dinner for years for 30 people. Now I cook breakfast if you're nearby. I don't do that anymore, but I mean everything's important. And if you think, in order for you got to know what everything is before you can make it important.
Hmm.
Okay, so that's what the process of cooking and discovering. I still haven't been to a class yet, and I still mix seasonings and spices, and but I don't think. And the thing is, I'm confident going to the cook-off because I don't think I'm competing against you. You can understand if there's a lot of people sit there and go, oh God, there's Darren, I can't win. Well, chances are Darren's going to do really well, but I'm competing against the 4 tables I hit
Hmm.
and the teams that are on that. And if I do the best job of controlling everything, I'll tell you, if there's one thing I'm proudest about our team, Darren taught me years ago, top 10. I started focusing on it. Other than the Royal and the Jack, which is kind of difficult. I mean, your result can be all over the map. In the last 5 or 6 years, I think we've been out of the top 10 in KCBS 4 times. So, I mean, you can look at it in barbecue. It's so important for me. So I want to talk about the confidence. because people think I don't go to awards because I'm too good for it or whatever. I have extreme anxiety. It's the only time I have. I mean, like I said, I played guitar with Van Halen. I mean, I've been in the studio with Keith Richards. I mean, never scared ever. I have such anxiety. It's a couple. One of the things that's going to drive me out of barbecue. I am absolutely convinced that everything's going to go wrong. So I go home and I pace the house. My wife goes, "This isn't good." I know. But yeah, I mean, I'm not at awards because honestly, I'm really uncomfortable after the cook. The minute I turn the food in, the last box, it's a horrible feeling washes over me. I'm being very honest with you. It's,
Wow.
it's not good. It's not good. I don't want to name names, but I think Tim shares it a little bit too. We discussed it. There's something about that that gets me, and that's one of the reasons why I think I got 3 paws in the coffin as a competition cook. Number one, the judging's way too inconsistent now. I mean, I thought I was pretty interesting at the World Championship. That Bobby, another cook for kids, and one, two were 90th and 96th in pork at that field, and then Bobby later changes his clothes, puts on a coat, and gets pork team of the year. How can you go from 96? I mean, there's certain things you got to understand is that, yes, it's possible to have a bad cook. And yes, people have bad cooks, most people. But the thing is, Bobby thought his pork was good. 96th. It's hysterical. And I think that I'm going to be a little bit more forceful and vocal. I mean, there's a couple things KCBS just has to do. And they have to, if somebody's out of line, they need to not come back for a while, or they need to be retrained. I can get into a million arguments about how to fix judging, but if you get rid of the 3 every contest that are turds in the punch bowl, you're going to have a lot better result. And what happened this year, from what I understand, is, I had to quit cooking. I got off to the second best start of my career, and then COVID.
Yep.
And I cooked 1 contest since then, deep in COVID, and I was talking to David Qualls, and he looked at my tables and he says, "You had the worst gap I've ever seen." And he still finished in the top 10. He goes, "You were on the wrong tables with the biggest gap." I just think that they need to do something to address that.
I agree.
And also, it'd be nice if we got some promotion as cooks and pitmasters.
Definitely.
I mean, but I mean, barbecue's too expensive and it's too random.
It is. And I think that also with COVID, I think you saw a lot of master judges who are generally older. Think you saw them staying at home.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So the confidence part is really a funny thing because I don't think I'm going in there with confidence. I think I'm going in there prepared.
That's a very good answer.
Yeah, I mean, and I think maybe people take that wrong, but I don't drink anymore. There's a few people who can drink a lot and win, but not many. You have to be really a good cook.
Yeah, I'm not one of those. I can't do it when I'm cooking. Can't do it. But I know a few that can.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I would never name names again, but Chicken and Grin. I mean, Jeff, those guys are absolutely brilliant. You know what? If everybody was like Shiggin and Grinning, but competition barbecue would be huge.
It would be, because it'd be one giant party, nobody turning any meat.
You know what? Yeah, I mean, at one of the guinea pigs, I gave Ted a mohawk. I mean, they're always game. I mean, I think they're the real spirit of barbecue. And I absolutely love them. And I shame them into getting a breakfast, And I'm not saying that Darren or Travis over there hog it, but they do.
So we like to talk about successes a lot in barbecue, but one of the things that I like to bring up on here is failure, and how has a big failure and a parent failure during a competition set you up for success later in the barbecue world?
Well, I'm thinking about it. I've had 2 that I consider to be really awful. One was an alleged piece of glove 2013 American Royal, and I had a really good cook, and I did really well. I really could have defended based on the randomness of it. Looking at the three scores I did get
Hmm.
were very good. Okay, I just had to get a marginal score, and I couldn't figure it out. And they don't tell you. At least back then, they didn't tell you. They don't take a picture of it with their phone. They just say, "Well, you're disqualified." So what I do is I don't wear gloves when I'm boxing at all. You find a glove in there, you got a problem because I don't wear 'em. Okay, so I had to eliminate as many things to get, um, and also I think that's a rule that needs to be looked at. There's some people that I mean, if it's clearly not an intent to mark the box on the random chance you're going to end up at a friend's table, I've seen some really minor things ruin somebody's cooking even season. So I'd love it if they address that. But yeah, that's one failure. And the next one I remember was Long Beach. And Long Beach was great. It was by the Queen Mary. And I don't know if you ever got to know Matt Dalton.
Yes.
Matt Dalton was one of my, I mean, I named the guinea pig after him. If I have a change of heart about the guinea pig, it's just because Matt still needs a contest. Matt was the internet um, social conscious jackhammer. I mean, some of his fights were legendary. But I mean, it was Steph, Matt, and Lamar, and all these guys that don't cook anymore. But God, we had a great time, and I take pictures all the time. I take a picture of the bricks and box. God, those slices look good. Those burn ends look good, but there's only 5 there. I turned in 5 burn ends, and I couldn't. I mean, somebody who prides themselves on control and detail and all that to not be able to count to 6, that's a pretty big screw up. And I did okay at the contest. It worked out. They just one guy didn't judge. So that was the drop score. I think some I learned from Todd Johns at Plowboys when I was coming up, and Todd Johns had a sign in his trailer that said "Don't give up on the box." And I've seen the best example I saw was one of the guinea pigs with Tim Shear. His pork looked terrible. I mean, there was no way he's going to build a box out of this. And I watched, and Tim's, I mean, I like the one time Tim's missed his turn in. He goes, "What happened?" He goes, "I was just having a great time." And I looked at the clock and I'd already missed the turn in. I was having a great time. I think that's awesome. So, and I watched him build that box and he won pork. And it's because he didn't give up on the box. And that's because you eat with your eyes, you figure it out, you manipulate, you work. But that's a huge thing. And I got that from Todd.
That's one of the things that I've gotten from Tim is not to give up, and there's always something you can do. You know,
Yes.
you it may be bad, but get that out of your head and figure out how to fix it and fix it fast.
Yeah, well, he's a really good cook. I mean, he's a really good cook. There's some robo cooks out there and some manufactured cooks that do great. That's fine, whatever. Tim's a really good cook.
He's a great finisher. He really is.
Oh, no question. I
Yeah,
mean, I think Darren is a fabulous. You know,
absolutely.
I met him on the stage at the Royal.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh.
So you got some more. Yeah, I know you have some more.
I got a bunch more.
Well,
I don't
I'll try
want
and
to take
answer them better.
What's that?
I'll try and answer them better.
Well, one of the things that I like to get into a lot, and I know that I personally have a lot of habits, rituals, and stuff that I go through. I'm a pretty superstitious cook. Do you have any of those type of things that you got to do every contest?
Well, shoes, shorts, shirts. There starts out a season where, and I do have a pair of Lucky's underwear too. Because Lucky has awards underwear, and they gave me a new in the pack ones. I can't tell you about them except for their lime green. Um, I mean, everybody's got that kind of deal. Um, Things we like to do. James and I, right at that lull in the cook, we usually have some vitamins. And those are these nerd candies, we call them vitamins. So we have some vitamins. It's really clothes. It's clothes more than anything. If I can't find that year's clothes or shoes, that's a problem for me. I have to have a little talk with myself and figure it out what just happened. There's one year I had a really good year in 2016, and the pair of shorts. My wife goes, "We can't sew them anymore. Just you really, I mean, well, they got to make it through the season, okay? They have to. You should have seen they had iron-on patches on the inside, and so it looked like Frankenstein shorts. But you know what? I was I think 19 out of 22 in the top three that year. So or some number top five. It was, and those shorts. I hated throwing those shorts away.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's I mean that's big to me.
This is the question that I've been dying to ask you, and I think we could probably do a whole podcast, but I don't know if you eat. Do you listen to music when you're cooking?
Never,
Never.
never. Sometimes when James is prepping, he puts Johnny Cash on, which makes me laugh. I have a good relationship actually with the Cash family, so that's fun.
Do you, do you not
I played on one of Roseanne Cash's records. So
really?
yeah, and King's Record Shop. She won a Grammy for it.
So
Now,
is that just to maintain your focus?
no, what happened? They asked me I got thanked for my amateur psychiatric counsel, and I go into the studio and I'm in Capitol Records or someplace in LA, and Rodney Crowell, she was still married to and was producing it, and they give me this guitar part, and I'm supposed to double Stuart Smith of the Eagles, this part, and it's friggin' hard, Luke. It's really hard, okay? And I'm scared because it's a hard part and I'm not nailing it. This is a big artist, and I ended up getting the part, but this is one of those things when they ask you to play on the record, it's a mercy. It's a token thing because if you're a dog with hearing aids, you can hear me. I'm buried in the mix, but I was on the record. Um, but Stuart Smith, I saw him about a year later. He goes, "Hey, Sterling, you doubled my part on that." I said, "Yeah, you could hear it." He goes, "said you must either have a good dog or good hearing aids." No, he goes, "I could hear it." He goes, "Did Rodney Kelly tell you I used a capo on that?" And I was a guitar player. So I was barring with my index finger and playing everything with the remaining three fingers. And I wish I'd thought of it, but that's a stupid. You can edit that out, but that's a pretty funny story.
That is pretty funny.
But no, I have a talk show in my head. When I drive, I don't listen to music either.
Wow.
It's pretty much silence.
I've done that for the past 2 years. I either listen to a podcast or I drive in total silence.
Yeah.
Um, and I enjoy the time alone and enjoy the thoughts going on. And
Listen, when you get old like me, I'm going to be 66 on Wednesday. Um, you really find yourself to be pretty interesting. I can repeat the same jokes. I can do all of that. So yeah, that's my time thinking.
gotcha. Well, we know that barbecue, there's a lot of things that cost a lot of money. One of the things I like to talk about are things that cost less than $100.
Cast iron.
Cast iron.
I've been cooking. I have so many cast iron pans now, and I refuse to buy the trendy ones. My mother left me the pan she cooked for me when I was a boy, and I'm a baby, and I've got that one. And I'm a big fan of Lodge,
Yeah.
and because I think it's the value, it's the bang for the buck. But I mean, I was using cast iron before it became trendy, but I mean, the thing I bought this year was I think 17-inch Lodge, and I cooked my turkey and I parted it. Okay, cooked it, parted, and it's the best turkey I've ever cooked at Thanksgiving. So, and the recipe's up there. I mean, on BPS, but yeah, I'm a big. I like the whole thought of cast iron. I like how it cooks. I like how it feels. So yeah, that's what. And I can't really use it in competition, but outdoor cooking, yeah, I love cast iron. I wish more people would do things more than a ribeye or a cowboy steak in them.
Absolutely.
There's all kinds of stuff you can do.
When you hear the word successful in terms of barbecue, who's the first person that comes to your mind?
Oh, Darren,
Darren?
I would say so. Absolutely. Darren's had a couple of runs. I mean, early on he had a run, and then later he had the best run I've ever seen. When I think of success, I think a moments that I was really proud to be there was Tuffy winning his third Jack. I think Darren and Sherry, and I think it's really important to talk about Sherry because she's so positive with so many people, but also I think they're a better team when she's there. And that's not taking anything away from Darren, but I think a lot of times people don't talk about the fact that that's a team and that Sherry is very impactful and very good.
We actually are going to have a series of episodes where Kim is going to interview teammates and get their perspectives, the same perspectives that we talk about
Yeah,
from the teammates, and actually give a little dish on the pitmaster. So I think it'll be a lot of fun.
absolutely. I think it'd be great.
Who's impacted your life the most in competition barbecue, do you think?
Well, it's too hard to say one. I thought about that. First of all, Johnny Trigg.
Yeah.
Johnny Trigg doing Pitmasters. And I can't say that it was rigged because I signed a agreement saying I wouldn't disparage it. So I don't think it was rigged. But Johnny cooked half the meat and won. Johnny taught me a lot. I remember I was so proud winning my first GC, Wildemar. I was sleeping in a produce truck that night. And I called Johnny. I said, Johnny won. He goes, so do it again. Anybody can win once. Okay. And so Johnny was very impactful. Johnny taught me a lot about focus and stuff, and I dearly love Johnny. He called today. I had COVID earlier, and he didn't call about that, but he called me because James just got over it, and he's fine. But Johnny's more concerned about James than me, jackass. So then the next one is a guy named Scott Nelson.
Scott
He had
Nelson.
a team called Swine Assassin, and he came out to California, and it's the middle of the night of Wildemar, our first GC, and we were just playing with Double Secret, and we had a half a bottle left. He tasted. He goes, "I like that stuff. Can I have that bottle? That's the only one I got." I said, "But sure." So he goes back and wins the next week. He RGC'd Wildemar. But this was so important to Big Poppa Smokers because the California, okay, and I'm an older Californian, whatever, and so nobody wanted to take that seriously. So what happened was Scott was a big part of the Iowa revival and the Iowa era, which is, I feel bad for the people that didn't get to know Big T's, and Lucky's still there, but Big T's and Scott Nelson and Tippy. I mean,
Hmm.
that's why I had them all come back for the last King of the Smoker. And you see how fun they were?
Oh, it was a blast.
I mean, they could cook their ass off, but they have a blast. So Scott Nelson got on the stage and won and goes, Big Poppa Smokers. And then Tippy had a great year. So I sent them, I was just working on Sweet Money. I sent it to them. The first time I used Sweet Money in competition was at World Food with Scott Nelson in Vegas. Um, but so Tippy would say Big Poppa Smokers. And then Ryan in his very calm and meticulous way. So those guys were winning and slaughtering everybody. And then very, very fortunately, Darren discovered kind of what was going on there. And so Iowa was just, I mean, the Girls Gone Wild, Scott's parents and stuff, but Scott was really instrumental in getting attention because they were winning, they were dominating. I mean, and I feel bad Scott's out of barbecue. I hate that Tippy's out. I don't like the Ryan, but I hear rumors that he may show up. You got to realize that so many of the people are gone now that were not dead, but just not doing it. And that gets tough. I mean, you can see it back there in
Absolutely.
Virginia, and I think more and more teams are quitting. It's too expensive, you know.
Yeah.
It- It's not enough reward, I think. But anyway, those are the guys, and then Darren, of course, Tuffy's been great to me from then, and I think we've been good for each other. I think, I like I said, Duffy's a dear friend that I think is such a brilliant cook and chef. Toss around the chef thing. So those are the guys without leaving people. I mean, Steph Franklin. I can keep going. Lucky, of course, but there's a lot of people there. But I mean, it was Johnny and then Scott and then Brian Darren.
Yeah. And Johnny was one of the people that I got to meet at King of the Smokers, and we've developed a great friendship over the years.
Oh, he's such a crusty old buzzard.
He is. But I got to sit with him when we did that Big 12 tournament event a couple years ago, and I go up to sit in my seat for the basketball games, and my seat is right next to Trish. And I look over, and she looks at me, and she looks at Johnny, and she goes, "Switch me seats," because she could just tell how giddy I was that I got to sit there and I got to watch West Virginia, who was a very low seed, beat Texas Tech, sitting there with Johnny and Matt Walker sitting in front of me. And it was just so much fun that Johnny's like, this isn't going very well for him. I'm like, no, it isn't.
Johnny, 2011, I'm sitting with him at the Royal, and I got a couple calls right away, and he starts hitting me. You won. Johnny, you're jinxing me. Shut up. I'm getting more nervous because it's awards. I have anxiety. And I got Trig telling me that I won. Of course, I didn't. Okay. So the next year, get a couple of good calls. He says, you won. Johnny, you're out of your mind. And then I got a second place brisket call. That was the greatest moment, Luke. Everyone's clapping. And the winner is Big Poppa Smokers. Not one person. But you know what? I looked out on the crowd, and Johnny Trigg was standing there, thumbs up, and Harry Sue was too. And Harry at the time owned California.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what kind of a guy Harry was. Harry is still a great sport and very supportive.
Yeah.
So, but I love Johnny. Bruise on my arm. What's that from? Johnny hitting me the words.
What do you think separates a good pitmaster from a great pitmaster? Feel?
Great pitmasters, I think they understand where they are with the meat.
Mhm.
I've given one class for California, and I remember I had 4 butts on the old hickories. I said, guys, I want you to take a time during the class, and I want you to have me tell you what the 4 butts are within 5 degrees. And you tell me when you want me to go out there and do that. And I was within 3 degrees on 2 of them. And, because it's all that practice. Like I know how much they weighed. I know my cookers really well. And I know what the temperature, I know what the humidity, I know all that stuff. So I can pretty much tell you. I mean, but that's from preparation, that's from work.
Right. Does your
I think feel is so big.
It's way more important than the number on the thermometer.
Oh yeah, and you still see guys. I mean, guys will teach that, but still live by the thermometer. And I use the thermometer as a reference point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's
the thermometer lets you know you're in the ballpark, but the feel lets you know which seat it is.
You're delivering a pizza. You're on the right street. You don't know what house.
Exactly. So you mentioned a lot about organization and being prepared. Is your competition week the same every week? Do you do the same thing?
Absolutely. But I want to tell you something, because you were asking, are you going to ask me about young pitmasters?
That was going to be my last one. Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll get to that. James preps, not the meat, but he makes sure everything ready. We talk a lot during the week. There might even be something we work on a Tuesday, just to make sure, if we're not sure, because and I'll get to that in some of your other questions. I mean, I think that we're going to go down when we're done, which is close, by the way, is being consistent. That comes from hard work.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to figure out if I can stay in to get to 50 GCs. That's where I'd like to stop. But I might not. It's hard. The last one's I'm at 42 now. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Royal, it was our second or third GC, and it was a fluke. That's why I feel for Mudville, who came from your place.
Yeah.
And talk to Thomas. Thomas, this pressure is going to completely. You put pressure on yourself. The only thing, it doesn't belong in cooking. And I know what happened, because you won your second contest. It was the Royal. And so there's all that. And I think he's really a good cook, and I think he's really a good guy. And I feel a little bad for him, and I'm saying this on air without saying, is that how he wants to be and what he wants to be, I can tell. I'm not sure that there'll be enough of barbecue for him to get there in
Mhm.
the era he's cooking in.
Yeah.
I came in right at the Pitmasters in that wave, and then Iowa was so impactful on barbecue.
Thomas with Mudville is a student of mine, and I've not. I mean, I've that's in my top 10 barbecue moments was when he won and going into his trailer, and he's sitting there working on meat for the next day, and he just turned around and looked at me and just dropped everything and came over and gave me a hug, and I was like, man, I couldn't be more proud of what you did here. This is pretty awesome.
Look, believe it or not, I liked being the only one, but I don't mind sharing it with Thomas.
He's just a fantastic gentleman. He really is just a great guy.
No, absolutely, and he's very nice to me, and I've only got to know him recently, but we've had some good talks. I hope that I hope he knows that when I talk to him, I'm really sincere. I mean, it's man, living up to other people's expectations. You got to figure out how to get out from that because it'll kill you.
Yep. I
You know,
think
that's why I have so few friends in barbecue on social media now. I mean, it's the cleansing. They either got too political and is in an insane way, or just mean.
well, and you've hit on it a couple times about the people leaving barbecue, and one of the things that I think we need to concentrate on is getting some younger people into it. And what is some advice that you would give to a smart, driven young cook who's about to enter the world of competition barbecue?
Pay attention, number one. Okay, I leave Easter eggs on almost every one of my posts when I'm practicing that I do. And Ed Williams with Sharp Gourmet Cooking said, do you know that I learned a lot? What I said, do you think that that's there? I leave them there. And he said, I'm glad you noticed it. I mean, glad you're paying attention too. But I mean, yeah, it just try and learn as much as you can. Filter out the bullshit, the negative stuff. Practice and document your practice. Document your competitions. I'll tell you another thing. There's before trailers came, I would call easy up the idiot's pyramid, because you get under that thing and you get so friggin' smart. Okay. And geez, I know we do it like this normally, but wonder if I put some raspberries in this or something. And then the problem with the idiot's pyramid is when you step outside the pyramid, the tent with the box, you just pooped your pants. Okay. I mean, Scott and I did that at the last time that happened, he was at the World Food. I was talking with Scott Nelson. We said, no matter what, we're not going to do this on sauce. He just won second at the Jack in sauce. And we got in there and decided that not only we're going to do it, we're going to do it double. And came in almost last. And so, trust your process, which I'm telling you things you all know. But I mean, the one thing I do is pay attention to as many people that seem to be successful. I think be really objective. Okay. And that is, you've got to be self aware,
Hmm.
because everybody thinks they got screwed. Nobody's kid's dumb. They have something else. So what I like to do is I take pictures, and if I feel like it didn't go how I really feel it should, usually by Tuesday I got a pretty good idea looking at the pictures. And then I look at past pictures. And then I always refer to the score sheets.
Hmm.
Look at on a micro level, the judging's pretty bad. If you just isolate one thing, on a macro level, it's pretty good. I mean, if you're struggling, look, you and I have talked. I think maybe about it. I think you might have been looking for some pork stuff, and I said, look at your sheets.
Yep.
They're going to tell you. I mean, really, if they keep telling you it tastes bad over 10 contests, maybe you ought to think about your flavor profile.
Absolutely.
But I mean, that's what I tell them: be prepared, be focused, know exactly what you're going to do. Don't give up on the box. Make sure that you have the best meat you possibly can, because everything's important. That's the most that's the thing that people don't necessarily agree with me, but I don't care what you're doing, whether you're managing a golfer or designing a guitar or competing. I mean, that's why I don't listen to music. I don't want to get distracted. I want everything that we do is entered the process out of trial and error and repetition. So I don't change I don't change a thing. I don't change a thing in the contest. I know exactly what I'm going to do. And maybe that's why you say there's a confidence, or I think that's where the consistency comes from. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm pumping out McDonald's. It's not, I mean, I think my food tastes good. Everybody does, but I don't cook it at home. I
Right.
mean, I invited my kids, hey kids, come on over. Dad's cooking some barbecue. It doesn't do very well.
It's the best average barbecue. That's one of Darren's things.
So for a young cook,
Yeah,
okay.
it's very good. And I one of the things that I preach too is the be honest. Be honest with yourself. Don't if your chicken sucked, don't trick yourself into thinking it was good because you'll never get better.
How about the guy who says my chicken was just awful, and I can tell you some big names, and I won't name names this time. And then the chicken hits, and they say, "Well, it's just the one piece on the thing. I'm sure it was good." You know, hey, look at if you thought it was bad at 2 o'clock, and you get a lucky call, okay, don't all of a sudden brag about your. It's okay to say today I might have robbed a bank. That bank that guy that's been robbing me, I got them. I did it back in barbecue scores before barbecue data. We did a judges survey and a cook survey. And we asked the cooks, and this is over 1,000 cooks, I think at the time, or 800. And I said, how many times do you hit the angel table? And they said 2%. How many times do you hit the table of death? 25%.
Right?
You think we have an objectivity problem here?
Maybe.
Yeah. So, hey, also for the beginning cook, don't forget that your eyes, your ears, your taste, and your feel using those is so important. I
All
mean,
senses. Yeah,
give as much as you can to the cook.
absolutely. Absolutely. I've had people tell me, man, this doesn't smell right coming out of my stack. I'm like, well, you better figure out what it is. It turns out they had a putty knife in the in the firebox. And I was like, well, I
I,
think you should
one
have fun.
one of the smokers, Big Mista, and who's out of barbecue, and Steph were catering. And I looked at Big Mista, and he's got a bottle of Drano in his hand, and he's pouring it down the stack of his spice line because it was clogged from smoke. And I said, well, you can't use that cooker. He said, oh, it'll be fine by tomorrow. True story.
Wow. Well, Sterling, I want to thank you. Let's get into some rapid fire questions. These are some questions I love to ask everybody at the end. What is one of your favorite pre, during, or post competition meals?
Well, it's actually, if I win, I get cinnamon rolls on Sunday.
From Cinnabon, or do you make them yourself?
Oh, that guy. So yeah, I mean, I can eat cinnamon rolls without getting any abuse because they're GC cinnamon rolls. That's my reward.
That's awesome. What is your favorite present that you like to give to people?
It depends on who they are, but I like to give something that they really, whether it's something small or I've given pits away, I've given a lot of guitars away. It's funny, I gave one of my when she was a teenager at the time, I remember giving her a guitar saying, well, this might be a waste. And she's one of the top guitar players out there. A girl named Gretchen Min.
Mm-hmm.
Follow her, she's brilliant. So I don't know. I mean, it's just, if you can do something that helps them out, I try and do that. I mean, which probably leads into the next questions, but
What do you think are the biggest misconceptions about you?
oh, I get it all, and it kind of bothers. I don't maybe arrogant or whatever, but you know what? I try and help everybody I can help.
Mm-hmm.
People who know me know that. You know, I think I'm giving, and I don't think people understand that. I think they take whatever they think is confidence, and not understand that some of their shots they fired on social media weren't fun to take. I didn't know why, but you know what? It's good for me, and it was good for me to do this. And Ernie Balla was because I was the boss's son, Silver Spoon. But like I said, we have I took it over with 14 employees, and we have over 600 now. So I mean, business. I absolutely got a huge mentor in my father, and the ability to take a business that was only doing a couple million over and build it into an international business. That was fun, but the respect there, and I don't get shots in the guitar business. I don't get shots at all. People like what we do. I've given them tools for artists and stuff. So I've taken a lot more shots. Like I said, it's probably good for me, but it's also going to be the thing that drives me out. It's like there's a lot of things. I mean, I hate to say it. I had so much fun cooking, and there was eras that were fun. And look, you make your own fun now. And I know when you go, you know who's going to be there, and you guys get parked together, and that's great. But still, it was more fun a couple of years ago, and I think most people agree that. And we lost a lot of the characters, you know, that were just that made it so much fun, and you couldn't wait. And it didn't matter what walk of life you came from. I mean, there were some guys. I mean, Steve Badul was a guy that's no longer that was just hysterical. I mean, he's made me cry laughing. Okay, so I miss guys like that.
If you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere with any message on it, getting that message out to millions or billions, what would it say and why?
And I have no message like that. Sorry, I don't. I mean, obviously, it'd be nice if people were a little kinder.
That's
There's
the one that I would go with right now is just two words, just be kind. It's
but I agree. That's in my heart and mind. That's the same thing in barbecue. Look, I said on Rimpy, and I know this is a quick hit, and I know this is it, but I said over several years, and people didn't like me. I said the way the money's going in barbecue, the judging, that this sport's in trouble. They've got to address it. They need to market their stuff, all the things, and nothing's really changed. And now I'll tell one last story. I played golf with a guy who started Outback Steakhouse a lot. He's a good friend of mine, Chris Sullivan. You can Google him. Probably the most successful restaurateur ever, next to Ray Kroc, because he Bonefish Grill and a whole bunch of. But he heard I was in the barbecue and I wasn't cooking the San Diego contest, and we're down there playing golf. And he goes, "So Budweiser there?" I said, "No." He said, "Any other restaurants?" I said, "No." "What do you mean? There's this national thing?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "It's wide open." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, let's golf later. Take me to that contest because I think I want to get Outback involved in this thing." Cool. We go there. It's Harry's nice to him. We get down about um, the third trailer, or back there was tents. And he says, "Let's go." So what? I got more people to show you guys. He, I don't want to say this on your podcast that he said it, but somebody said this is a shit show. I know why the other brands aren't here. And then trailers came and everybody backed the trailer and away from the fans. And we still have contests where we don't even give them water, much less a shady place to sit. And
Yeah.
we wonder why promoters are leaving. Listen, COVID, I'll leave you in this. COVID gives people an out to get out,
Absolutely.
okay? Because they get to miss a year and then they make the announcement, and we're starting to see that.
And I think you're going to see it not only from teams, but I think you're going to see it from all walks, teams, judges, contests. I think you're going to see a lot of things going away.
Well, there's a contest in California coming that's 3 meats, Texas barbecue, not IBCA, like
Wow.
restaurants. And then the steak, I mean, Jerry Aguilar is killing it out here on steak. He likes it. He goes, "I can drive my wife's Tesla and the PK fits in the sub trunk." And he's having a blast. And Woody Gray. Hey, Luke, thanks for letting me ramble and destroy your
Oh,
your well planned layout.
no, it went fantastically, and I can't thank you enough for number one, being on the podcast, but number two, all that you've done for barbecue and all that you do with cooking for kids. I just think it is one of the best things that we've been a part of, and I truly thank you, and I know a lot of other people do as well.
Well, thank you. And, the little general in you, thanks for dancing. Thanks for bringing some life in the barbecue. And thanks for having me on. Thanks for being a great ambassador there.
We try, and this has been a really fun conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time.
All right. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you for listening to Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast. Be sure to subscribe and like the podcast, rate the podcast, and to share it out with your friends. Also, be sure to check out the Old Virginia Smoke YouTube channel as well. We'll have another episode for you next week. I'm going to keep that next week's guest a surprise because I think that you'll really, really enjoy it. For companies interested in advertising, please contact Old Virginia Smoke directly via www.oldvirginiasmoke.com. Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast, is edited by Chris Sedenka. Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast, is a property of Old Virginia Smoke, LLC. All rights reserved. Copyright 2020.
Virginia smoke. Old Virginia.